And welcome to the Bar Down Hockey Show. I'm Josh Sackles here with Ethan Schmidt and Lisa Babica. And we're in round 2 of the playoffs, guys. Got some good playoff hockey going.
We do. We have some good playoff hockey. But before we get started, the NHL draft lottery was last night. I think that was a pretty interesting steal for the top 3 teams. If you didn't watch, the New Jersey Devils will be drafting first. The Philadelphia Flyers will be taking second, and the Dallas Stars will be taking third. I think the Arizona Coyotes got screwed out the most because they dropped all the way down to 7th. And if you looked on the face, you could see that it was just shock that they dropped so far. And then the Las Vegas Golden Knights will be drafting 6th. So I think it'll be an interesting way. The Devils and Flyers both moved up pretty far. I believe the Flyers were out of the 10 range when they drafted. So I think that was a pretty great steal for them.
Absolutely. And for the Flyers, they didn't play like it this year, but last year they were a playoff team. And they can certainly play like it again next year. And a number 2 draft pick is going to really help them out.
I agree. And I think the Dallas Stars will definitely benefit with having third in drafting third. I think who gets really hurt from this situation is the Colorado Avalanche. Even though they are drafting 4th, they would rather have first or second. And same with the Arizona Coyotes. I think that's a huge drop. I think they're going to get screwed over big time in that position.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would have guessed that the Coyotes would have stole one of the top 4 picks, but moving all the way to 7th, it's not very good for them. I think they're gonna lose out on a good player that would really help their organization because they really need somebody like a center, and most likely the top 4 spots could be centerman going. And I think the Las Vegas Golden Knights are sitting pretty solid. 6 isn't too bad, and they're getting all the players through the expansion draft during the NHL awards in Vegas.
Yeah, we could see the Golden Knights really take control of their own destiny this season. A lot of people were counting them out like, oh, it's just an expansion team. They're probably not going to do anything this year. But with the number 6 overall pick, with all their expansion players, maybe they can actually make a play for something in the Western Conference.
I think it should be pretty interesting to see how that goes. I think you are right that they should, get a good draft pick, and they'll get a lot of good players from the other teams. So
I think it might take a year though for them to mesh, but that would be something, huh? It'd be quite a story if they were able to put it together so quickly.
Absolutely, it'd be huge. It would be huge for to see what that Vegas fan base is, especially if they can win quickly. The best recipe for creating fans, gaining fans, and maintaining fans is winning hockey games or just winning games in general. And if the Vegas Golden Knights can do that, then they shouldn't have any trouble getting a fan base out there in Vegas, which is one of the things that people were concerned about when setting up a franchise in Las Vegas.
I would still say to be concerned about having a fan base because I don't think a lot of the locals will want to go down to the Vegas Strip. That's something that they stay away from because, you live there, it gets old. It's like anything. It's a tourist spot and people just don't want to be by it. And I think that'll hurt when it comes time to buy season ticket holders. And I think that'll be a big struggle. But they could make a lot of money by being a season ticket holder and then just selling every single ticket. So I think that should be pretty interesting to talk about. However, the Detroit Red Wings are picking 9th in the draft. That's the first time that they were there, and I would, a really long time, almost over 2 decades.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to see what they do with that 9th pick because clearly 2 years ago, they had a playoff team, and this past year they just fell flat on their face. Now, do they spring full rebuilding mode and take maybe a little bit of more of a project at number 9? Because you're not going to get an NHL-ready talent at number 9. But do they take a little bit more of a project, or what do they do with that number 9 pick?
I think the Red Wings just need to look at it and break down who's going to be best for their team, and it might honestly be a decision when they're on the clock. Like, they're gonna have to wait and see who's best available at 9, and then from there you just have to make a solid decision on what's the best player that fits your franchise the best. And definitely it would be more of a project for development and for the future, because the Red Wings need some stability right now.
Well, it is pretty interesting because they actually have never done this poorly in NHL regular season since the 1970-1971 season, where they finished 7th. All the other times, even though they did struggle, they did finish 5th in the 1989 and 1999 season, or 1990 season, pardon me. So I think it should be pretty interesting, where they go. I mean, that's a pretty big drop for them, that they've been, struggling after a good run for a long time. So. And
a lot of people, just, I guess, look into basketball really quickly, a lot of people say it's tough to change a culture of losing. You look at teams like the Philadelphia 76ers, they have the closest thing to a culture of losing that you can get. And people are talking about how to change that. Well, the Red Wings have a culture of winning, and they just had their first losing season in recent
25 years.
Over 25 years, and nobody from their last losing season is probably even remotely close to being involved with the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, why would they be? You just had 25 seasons of winning hockey. You have so many people to choose from to be involved with your franchise that were from winning. So the question is, how does this franchise bounce back from their first losing season in over 25 years?
Well, I think they just gotta look at it like, hey, we're the Detroit Red Wings. This past season is not who we are. We have to go out there, make an effort to pull together a playoff team once more, and I think what they have for them is their brand. Like we are the Detroit Red Wings. We had those 25 consecutive playoff appearances, and that's just what they have to keep striving for. That mentality.
I would agree. I think there's other teams in the same boat. The Los Angeles Kings, who are drafting 11th. They have their name of the Los Angeles Kings. So I would tend to agree that they just have to say, I'm the Kings, and we got to go forward. Josh, the New York Islanders are drafting 15th. How do you feel about that? What kind of pick do you think they're going to pick? Player they're going to pick. Pardon me.
I think right now they need a goaltender. And I know that you're not going to get an all-star goaltender at number 15, and you might not get anything close to that. But I think right now, from what we've seen from the Islanders, their biggest problem is their goaltending. And we saw this last year. And yeah, Capuano didn't handle it correctly. He said, let's go with a 3-goalie system, which is unheard of in the NHL, as much as a 2-quarterback system is unheard of in the NFL. So the Islanders need to find a franchise goaltender. They need to establish who their franchise goaltender is. And from what I've seen this past year, it's not anybody on the roster, unless somebody's going to prove something to me this upcoming season. It's going to be somebody that's not on the NHL roster.
I would tend to agree with you. I think they really do need a goalie, and I think that's been hurting them and holding them back from the places that they can go in the last couple years. And I think if they do get a solid goaltender, they will be successful the rest of 5-10 years coming up. So I think that should be pretty interesting to look at. But I mean, in the rest of the draft, you have the usual names. The Canucks are up there, Avalanche, like I mentioned before. The Buffalo Sabres, they're still looking, they're interviewing people to take some spots for them. I think that should be pretty interesting because they're still really undecided. But I've heard that they've been taking a lot of big name guys to interview for those spots.
For you mean coaching and management and stuff like that? Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard too much about it, but the Sabres are not a bad franchise. They shouldn't be picking 8th in this draft. They shouldn't have finished as poorly as they did this past season. Much like some of the other teams on this list, like the Kings, the Panthers, the Islanders, the Lightning.
I was going to say the Lightning. I mean, they've been successful for quite some time with Steven Stamkos. I mean, and it's kind of a bummer to see them on the list. The Jets, that doesn't surprise me. They're still a building, and because they came from Atlanta, correct? Mm-hmm. So I think that will kind of, see. I mean, it's a struggle.
The interesting thing to pay attention to is both the Islanders and Lightning had very strong second halves of the year. And yet they were both unable to make the playoffs. So I think it speaks volumes to how important the first half of the season really is to teams.
Well, talking about the Lightning, Steven Stamkos is their leader, and he really needs to stay healthy. I mean, he seems like he's always getting hurt, staying out with an injury, missing a week or two, and even if that still hurts. And especially, you know, battling injury down the stretch, or even if it's at the beginning of the season, they need their leader at all times. And Steven Stamkos has to become that guy, and he has to be able to stay healthy for that team.
Absolutely, but I think this is enough talking about losing and enough talking about failure. Let's talk about some teams that are winning. Let's talk about some teams that are in the playoffs, guys.
Let's go for it. I mean, this has been a pretty interesting round two to start off with. Which series would you guys like to start off with? Anybody?
I gotta tell you, I am very surprised that the Edmonton Oilers stole both games
I am too.
on the road in Anaheim. I mean, this team is just on fire, and they're so fast, and Anaheim just hasn't been ready for it.
No, they haven't. Anaheim had a cupcake walking in the first round with the Calgary Flames. I think they were not expecting what Edmonton was coming out to play for. And, the first game, they won 5-3. The second one was a little closer with a 2-1 win. But I would agree with you, Ethan. The Oilers are coming, and you should be scared. I think...
And they have 2 games at home right now.
They have 2 games at home, and I could honestly see them sweeping the Ducks. I really could.
That would just be bananas.
I say sweep the Ducks, or they lose 1 game to the Ducks, but then turn around and win in Game 5.
Well, looking at the series, this is what I see. I see the Ducks are just playing flat-footed, and especially in the first game.
Maybe web-footed.
Yeah, they're hobbling around like ducks out there. But what I noticed is that they're playing flat-footed, and the team is giving up a lot of penalties, a lot of uncharacteristic penalties, because the Anaheim Ducks are usually a disciplined team. They have a lot of veteran players like Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf, Kessler. But I mean, these guys can play dirty, but just the whole team in general, when they're playing slow, it seems like they're gonna go on the penalty kill because they're committing.
No, I agree. I definitely agree with you. The issue is you see an older team, they can't keep up with the younger team, so they start doing stupid penalties.
Exactly.
You're right. They trip, they high stick, whatever it is, because they can't keep up and they're trying to keep up. And even if they don't mean to, they're accidentally doing it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, again, just looking at the Ducks, you don't think of a star when you think of the Ducks. But when you think of the Oilers, you think of Connor McDavid. I guess this brings up the question again, and I don't know if we have time to get completely into this today, maybe on a later show, but how much does star power play a role in playoffs? And I mean, you just looking around the playoffs, you see Sidney Crosby leading the Penguins to a 2-0 lead. You see Connor McDavid leading the Oilers to a 2-0 lead. Again, it's a lot about star power.
I would tend to agree with you. Well, to be honest, I'm really ticked off. Okay. Yesterday, I was trying to watch the Rangers-Senators game, okay, Game 2, and I'm like, all right, well, it was kind of a blowout. The Senators were losing 4-2 going into the third period, so I was like, screw it, I'm not going to waste my time watching the third period. Took a good 2.5 hour nap, come back, and the Senators won in double overtime, and I'm like, oh, wow. I was ticked. I wanted to see it, and you know what? They turned around and they won. Congrats for them, but I'm ticked because I want to see it.
Well, Liesl, I have to tell you that based on your story, it seems like you have no one to blame but yourself for that. I'm sorry. But if
you can blame the Rangers because, I really truly thought they were going to pull out that win, and they blew it.
I feel like you can always blame the Rangers. This is coming from an Islanders fan. Anyway, I was covering a track meet yesterday, and I just checked the score. I'm like, I wonder how. I'm like, I hope the Rangers didn't win. And I checked, and I saw they lost 6-5. I was just so happy.
God.
I was just so happy.
You just a smiling little feller out there?
I was a smiling little feller out there. I went out. I did my interviews. I came back. I looked at the score again. I'm like, this is a good day. This is a good day.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. People thought the Rangers could just come in and dominate Ottawa. I feel like that was the consensus around the league. But I mean, But I mean, Ottawa got home ice. They're the higher seed because of the way the divisions were set up this year, the seeding. And they just played their game at home. And behind that crowd, they were able to accomplish a 2-0 lead.
I think it should be pretty interesting. I mean, because now we're headed back to New York. The New York fans can get rowdy. We know, Josh, you're a rowdy person. They get critical. I'm really interested to see how the Rangers come out because, quite honestly, looking at the highlights yesterday and the part of the game that I did see, Ottawa looked slow, and then it looked like it flipped. The Rangers didn't look like they cared, to be honest with you. They were just kind of like la-di-da, and they turned around and they lost 6-5. I mean, you let up 4 other goals after leading 4-2. 4 other goals. I mean, that kind of sounds like the Blue Jackets last round.
Well, I do have to say that when you trade half your franchise for aging players like Rick Nash, and then the Rangers are surprised that they're not competing after years that they've gotten to the Stanley Cup before. I mean, they have no one to blame but themselves. Again, a few years ago, they traded Rick Nash. Who did they give up for Rick Nash? 3 of their top prospects. That's going to hurt them down the road, and I'm not saying that they're not going to win this series because it's still very possible that they can come back and beat the Ottawa Senators. They have an amazing goalie in Henrik Lundqvist, but it's going to hurt them down the road, and it might be starting right now.
I agree. I totally agree where you're coming from. I think you have to look in the future, and it becomes difficult, and I don't know. I don't think that was a smart move by giving up prospects. And now I think you kind of see it in this series. I mean, it should be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, does Ottawa sweep 4 games? I don't
I'd be shocked.
No, I don't think that'll happen.
Right now, it's honestly a battle of goaltenders. I feel like Henrik Lundqvist has been making some absolutely amazing saves. And then Craig Anderson on the other end of the ice, he's played some great hockey too. I mean, he took on 48 shots. Granted, he let in 5, but 48 shots and still able to get your team the win has been pretty huge. So both goaltenders stepping up to their name in this series, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Absolutely. And again, if hockey, obviously you can get like 35 shots on net and score 1 goal, the other team gets 15, they score 3. A lot of it is just luck, it's timing, it's opportunities, it's seizing the opportunities. And rarely does the team, and not rarely, but like about half the time, the team that deserves to win doesn't win, especially in the playoffs. But if anyone deserves this series win, it's Craig Anderson, especially with what he's been through this year with cancer, with being out, with all that stuff.
And I think that's what's really pushing him along. Now, you mentioned goaltenders on a good side of that. Braden Holtby got pulled yesterday for the 3rd period. Thoughts?
The Penguins are just too much to handle offensively. They're just burning the Washington D. They're getting in there and doing exactly what they want to do. It's tic-tac-toe all day. 6-2 win. Penguins are they're cruising, and the offense is just on a tangent.
Well, see, it's interesting that you say that because when I sit down and watch the game as a fan, I think, the Penguins are really struggling. They can't get up, they can't score. They can't score in the first period. They're having a hard time, which they do because Washington holds them pretty well. And then, Washington lets up a crappy goal that shouldn't go in, or just, little things, and then it just gets out of control and they can't handle it. And I think it's really unfortunate because they do have a really great team. But I think at the end of the day, the Penguins are better. The Penguins did lose a couple players, though, from, with being hurt yesterday. So we'll see what comes out of that.
Well,
but yeah, Braden Holtby.
Holtby got pulled, and it just shows that there's a lot of uncertainty right now for the Capitals. I think it was okay to pull him. But it's definitely going to bother his confidence, and I'm not really sure how he can respond for the rest of the series.
I think it was pretty ballsy that
Barry Trotz would do that.
Yeah, that Trotz would do that. I was not expecting that. I was sitting there, and then they're like, there's been a goalie change, and Holtby was sitting on the bench, and I thought that was pretty,
courageous.
It was. It really was. Because I mean, you talk about the Fleury and the Murray situation, and you're like, who do you go with? Blah, blah, blah. And by pulling somebody, it's like, ooh, you're right. You damper on their self-confidence.
Yeah.
And what happens if they go in there? Do they take that and play pissed off, or do they take it and play?
That's the thing. You're talking about mentality. I think they're really struggling to play their style of hockey when they're down. When they're down, the Capitals just shut down. They're mentally not there. It's like you're down a goal. You're not out of this game, but it feels like the way, especially in that second game, they're like, oh man, the Penguins are ahead of us. What are we gonna do? And it just.
And see, like the thing is when you sit there and you're watching, it was the same way with the fans. I would say about 10 minutes left in the game, there was people leaving. There were seats open.
See, that's
completely.
terrible. That's
and
terrible.
It is terrible.
That's
it is
not what
terrible. You need people to stay because you need support behind you. Whether you're losing 5-2 at that point, who cares? People should stay and support their team.
And it's a playoff game. You need to stay there till the end.
No, I agree. And to be honest, I didn't think the Penguins were going to win game 2. I mean, that's really freaking hard to go.
Both games on the road.
On the road and in Washington.
Yeah.
Well, 3 Penguins lead the playoff.
The stats.
And Getzel, Malkin, and Kessel. So, all 3 of those guys are really stepping up this year, and Crosby's not too far right behind them. So.
No, I agree. And you mentioned, Josh, trading away your prospects for the Rangers. The Penguins have Getzel, and I think he's should be a really good kid coming up in the next few years. I mean, what did you think about this series, Josh?
I mean, I think you just mentioned the thing with the Rangers trading away all their prospects. If you look at the Capitals, I mean, they're a team made up, they have some of their own players, but if you look around, a lot of their players have been traded for, a lot of their players have been signed, which is not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, you can't win with signed players. You can win with signed players, and teams have won with signed players, but they have Shattenkirk, they have Oshie, they have, I think, Kessel? Not Kessel. Who's that defenseman that used to... Orpik. He used to play for the Penguins. And you have all these players, and they've played together for at least a year or two. Shattenkirk only a half a year.
Justin Williams.
But all these players, I mean, you're pulling them from different systems, and you're trying to make an all-star team. And it's probably just in my mind because we watched part of the movie last night, but we watched Miracle last night. And probably the greatest hockey movie ever made.
I would agree.
And the coach says the reason why all-star teams don't work is because they rely on talent. And it looks like the Capitals are trying to play based on their all-stars. They're trying to have Oshie, Ovechkin, Shattenkirk lead them to these wins. And these 3 players can't do it against a solid team like the Pittsburgh Penguins. If these players are able to come together and play together, then we have a series on our hands. But if the Capitals keep relying on their stars, leaning on their stars, they're not going to get past this round. They might get swept.
I think it should be interesting, though, because I did mention about, a bunch of players being hurt. Patrick Hornquist is up in the air for Game 3, and so is Tom Kuhnhackl and Ron Hansey. I mean, Hansey got nailed in the face yesterday, and, I mean, that's a pretty owie situation for anybody. But that's 3 people out, including Letang, if you add him to the roster. So if the Capitals don't take advantage, if those 3 players don't play in Game 3 on Monday night, then what are they doing? What is going on in the locker room? I mean, you need to take advantage. I'm sorry, I love my team to death, but as an opponent, you take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
I really do. I feel like the Capitals' problem, they don't have a little rookie ball of energy. Like you were saying, they're just full of veteran star power. There's not really that one young stud that's stepping up like Getzel is for Pittsburgh, or the Predators had Kevin Fiala, but sadly he got injured. But he really sparked them to where they are today, I feel like, in the playoffs. But just team, and then Edmonton, full of young players all around. I mean, so it's just people it's whoever's hot at the right time in the playoffs, and the Penguins are figuring it out even with their stars. So.
Well, finally, Ethan, give us your thoughts on your series.
Oh, man. Well, it's the only series that's tied 1-1.
It is the only series.
Pretty interesting, I would say. But I don't think the Predators should be should be feeling bad at all about stealing a game in St. Louis. St. Louis is a hostile environment. They got out of game 1 with the 4-3 win. They were actually leading most of game 2, but Tarasenko absolute snipe to get to go up 3-2.
Star power.
So,
Just saying.
Tarasenko finally coming to play in game 2. I mean, Tarasenko hasn't been all that there in the playoffs. It feels like.
I would agree.
But he finally stepped up and got that good goal to win a game for his team, and that's something that you look for in a player like Tarasenko. Can he make this happen in the playoffs? It's like looking at Ovechkin and Crosby, you know what I mean, and Rick Nash, McDavid. So I think it's scary for Nashville if Tarasenko has found a rhythm, but I mean, looking at him, it's good for him that he's able to do what he's there for in the playoffs.
I think this is the most even series out of the 4 series right now.
Definitely.
I mean, agree. I would agree.
Quite literally.
Quite literally. I mean, I would agree that, Penguins and Capitals are pretty even, but the series doesn't reflect that. In the Blues and the Predators, the series reflects it's an even series.
It's a battle.
It is a battle. I think, you could possibly see 6 or 7 games. What do you think?
I at least 6 at this point. It's going to be really interesting to see who wins game 3. But, I mean, both goaltenders can play excellent whenever they want. Jake Allen, Pekka Rinne, they're both on top of things right now. And it's just a matter of who's getting those timely goals. I mean, we see it like in game 2, Tarasenko scoring late in the third, and then the Predators scored late in the third to win 4-3 in game 1. So which team's going to create more chances? Go out there and attack the other team, get more shots on goal. It's really tough, and it is just so even. Both defensive units on each team are really competing with each other, and it's just going to be a matter of who can make it happen.
I would agree with you, Ethan. I mean, I think it should be pretty interesting. I think it is a goaltender battle, but at the same time, there was only 24 shots by Nashville in game 2 and only 20 by St. Louis. So your goaltender has to be pretty on point, because that's not a lot of shots at all in a game. And if they let up one, that's like, that could be
huge.
Yeah, it's it could be a game winner or a game loser.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know goaltending is always tough. So you don't want too many shots, you don't want too little shots. But in a playoff game, I mean, I would think goalies are confident enough in their skill where they want 30 shots. And I mean, yeah, you can ask a goaltender, do you want 30 shots? Goaltender can be like, no, I want 0 shots because I want my team to play amazing defense. But I feel like a goalie wants 30 shots. A goalie wants, at least in the playoffs, to just be able to stay sharp and go 30
them all game.
30 for 30. But if you don't have a lot of shots, if you only have 20 shots on net, I mean, you're in and out of it.
Yeah.
And the goalie can say, I need to position myself better, blah, blah, blah. But that comes with rhythm. So,
I mean, I would tend to agree. I mean, as we mentioned, the series is pretty even. I would personally say that Pekka Rinne and Jake Allen are pretty even goaltenders as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially right now in the playoff hockey, maybe not through the regular season, but Jake Allen and Pekka really put it together.
Ethan, I have to say, you're probably the biggest Ducks fan here right now, because it looks like your series is going to go 6, and let's say the Predators are able to pull it out. If Edmonton wins this series in 4 or 5 games, they're going to be resting up for your Predators there, buddy.
Well, it's crazy, because I honestly thought that Anaheim would be able to step up and take on this Edmonton team head on. I did not see him being down 2-0, but I could have saw Nashville and Anaheim Western Conference Finals, because they've really become rivals in the past few years. But if Nashville is the team that's gonna lose out on rest, it could be huge, like you're mentioning.
Well, round 2 is still on its way. It will go into whoever is in the conference finals. However, unfortunately, this is our last episode of the semester. We are really bummed out about that, because we'd like to continue because the Stanley Cup playoffs do have quite a bit of ways to go through. But, it just doesn't work out because our school year ends this upcoming week.
Yep.
May 5th is technically our last day of our freshman year of college. And I would just like to thank you, both of you, Josh and Ethan. I can't thank you enough for being my friend. You've meant a lot to me in the last year. I really cannot wait, however, though, to come back in August, talk about what happened over the summer. There's going to be so much content to talk about, and I think it'll be a fantastic show. So I think we have a great forward to see where we go with Bar Down Hockey.
Absolutely. Like Lisa said, this has been a great show. It's been great. It's not always fun to get up on Sunday mornings, especially after some Saturday nights that I know we've had this semester. But it's nice to wake up on Sunday mornings. It's nice to talk hockey with you guys, and hopefully we'll get to do it again next semester and talk about the Stanley Cup champion, whoever that may be. Hopefully not the New York Rangers.
Well, I've loved being on the show with you guys, and it's been a great adventure. We've gotten to talk about so much, and hockey's a beautiful sport. It's a great game, and this is a great way to shed light on that sport and really help people understand better, and pass it on.
Understand why hockey playoffs are better than basketball playoffs.
Well, I would agree with you, Ethan. But coming up in this fall, we're going to have some new add-ons onto our show, So if you do have any requests, please feel free to contact one of the three of us or all three of us and just bother us and tell us what you want to hear because, of course, we care about the fans and what they'd like to hear. It's not all about us. As much as we like to think it's all about us, it's not. So we really enjoy your company and following along with Bar Down Hockey.
Absolutely, and make sure you follow our Twitter page. We're going to be updating it a little bit. I mean, this week might be a little bit slow because of our finals, but over the summer, I know most of us aren't really doing too much. So we'll definitely be keeping it updated at BDH_show.
Yeah, it'll definitely be the spot over the summer because we will be apart, but
the Bar Down Hockey Show will always be together.
A lot of content will be put together on Twitter.
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at Josh Douglas.
You can follow me at Liesel_Lee.
You can follow me at the Ethan Schmidt.
All right, and thanks for listening. And this is Bar Down Hockey.